Hello,
Hello.
good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Welcome to an exciting journey which we have today, where effort meets passion and purpose drives outcomes. This is a theme that resonates with every achiever out there. We all know that we are doing daily, weekly efforts, and these efforts are fueled by our purpose, by our passion, and the outcomes we cherish because they are the fruits of our consistent and purposeful activities.
Exactly.
So think for a second about Thomas Edison, right? Because he's one of the greatest inventors, and he famously said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Right? And
That's beautiful.
this is so funny because actually this is an illustration of his relentless pursuit of achieving an outcome. And his outcome, actually, it was the groundbreaking for so many other innovations. And this was something like a breakthrough, right?
Yeah, but before that outcome, he made a lot of effort, right, to arrive to that outcome.
Exactly. So 10,000 times he failed. So
Yeah.
he had 10,000 ways and understanding what is not working in order to make it work. So this is resilience on one hand, but also, but also that kind of focus on your purpose driven by your passion, right? He was passionate about his innovation. He wanted to deliver the world something which was a breakthrough, right?
Exactly.
Another example, I would say, is the example of the famous Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling. Because, I don't know how many of our visionaries, they know the story of Harry Potter, and actually not the story of the book. Definitely they know the story of Harry Potter because I believe
Yes, but not how it was born, right?
Exactly. So J.K. Rowling faced numerous rejections before Harry Potter. I think if I recall correctly, there is so much information out there. She has been rejected more than 15 times, right?
And how much effort she did, right, to write all those stories in a napkin.
Exactly, and
that's incredible.
And maybe what people they don't know is that she wrote much of her first book under significant personal hardship, right? So her personal circumstances were very tough. Having this kind of rejection over and over again, that did not decrease her pursuit and consistency of actions for the outcome, because her outcome was to publish an amazing book which was about to become one of the very famous movies even for our generation, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love them.
Yes. So the reason why I brought up Thomas Edison and J.K. Rowling is just to have an illustration of how consistent actions, resilience, being persistent in following your purpose with passion actually is going to drive ultimately to the outcome which you envision, right?
Exactly.
So shall we take the story back home a bit? Let's have a story related to our personal experience, right?
Yeah, because at the end, that's why we are here, right? To talk about our stories. So what do you have in mind?
When I was 30, I set a very clear purpose to myself. And that purpose was defined as to achieve an executive position in a large, well-known corporation by the age of 45.
Wow.
Yes.
You were like very clear on what you wanted, right?
Exactly. And to retire from corporate life by 55 to follow my
That's amazing.
Okay. Now, I poured my passion into everything work related because, first of all, I loved our customers and the mission and the vision and the company. I believed in that. And I also knew that every process and product detail, which I was driving together with my team, will enhance the customer experience and is going to create long-term value, right?
Mm-hmm.
This meant adopting all the time new technologies, innovation, constantly reinventing my work methods, improving my leadership. I was studying every 2-3 years, I was taking another course, right? I decided to move to different countries, 7 in total. And that also demanded a significant effort and versatility and courage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the reason of all this uptaking, difficult projects, moving around, taking the leadership of various things, actually, that was that kind of effort which ultimately led to the achievement of my first objective, because by the age of 42, I was becoming that executive, right?
Wow. Even before time, because you said 45.
Yes, even before.
Even before time, you could achieve it.
Time, indeed, right?
Wow.
What I realized, so when I realized at that age that actually it took me a little bit, less than 15 years to really get to my first objective, I realized that all these efforts brought me closer to my goals. People are saying, oh, you've been lucky. You've been lucky that you achieved that.
Yeah.
You've been lucky that, you got that job.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's not luck.
It's not luck.
Exactly. It's rather the peak, right, of consistent and courageous decisions, driven by confidence and believing in the trajectory which I decided for myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So exactly. when we are thinking like, let's be lucky to achieve something, I think instead of thinking like this, we should be thinking, what are kind of the consistent efforts which we are not doing? We are not just jumping. We are doing today something and we are doing something else 1 month down the road.
Exactly.
What are those kind of consistent efforts and actions, decisions we need to make, moves and changes we need to decide and take it as a risk in order to get closer to the outcome which we envision?
It happens frequently, when I listen to you, I have many examples on my mind of things like this, that people say, you're lucky, look at the life you have. Yeah, but behind that, there was so much effort. There were so many decisions and hard decisions to take, that
Absolutely.
You need to choose, you need to prioritize, and sometimes you need to leave aside many things that you would like to do, but because you have an objective and a purpose, and that if you don't follow and you don't make that effort, you're not going to achieve that.
Yeah.
So I have many examples on my head. As you talk.
So either you have an aspiration like the North Star, either you have a very strong purpose. You really need to be very objective regarding your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'm calling this the SWOT analysis.
Okay.
And just to give you the example, the way how my mind was thinking during that period, keeping in mind my aspiration, right, was what are the strengths, meaning the skills, the things which I know, which I'm having, which can contribute to me performing the actions or performing the changes or taking up a challenge, right, to help me go through it. What are the weaknesses, meaning the gaps which I'm having, and I really need to find support and help somewhere else. Maybe to brush up my knowledge, maybe to get a mentor, maybe to talk to people going through the same experience in order to accumulate the knowledge helping me to fill in that gap, that weakness, right? Usually strengths and weaknesses, they are in your control and they belong to you. This is something which you can control. While opportunities and threats, they are coming from the external factors, right? And here is the beauty when you have such a big aspiration, right? The self-awareness and the awareness in general needs to really be high up, because opportunities are coming very quickly, but are leaving very quickly as well.
Exactly. You need to take them.
You know that saying that you've been the right person in the right moment, in the right timing, right? That kind of triangle, time, opportunity, you being there, you being present, because you can be there, but if you are not present to listen to the conversation, to pay attention, right?
Yeah, it's going to slip away.
It's just going to slip away. So opportunities are those kind of situations where you have to take a decision, right? So for example, the opportunity to move in another country, that's a decision which you are making. The opportunity is there, but the decision comes with risk, with pros and cons, right? So the threats, they are also the risks which you might face. The threat of, like, you know, really being away from your family for so long that you might lose friends in the process because you cannot keep up with the relationships, right?
You have to start like from zero.
Exactly.
You don't know.
Exactly.
Maybe with another language.
Exactly. So having this SWOT analysis, everyone can, like, you know, watch it on YouTube. You can just Google SWOT and you have an entire explanation. If you start applying, you know, on the big decisions or big milestones, that's a very effective tool. So my story comes to an end because yes, I did become that executive, and yes, I am retired before the time.
And even before the time you program.
Exactly.
So that's amazing.
Yeah.
You're like a proof, a live proof that effort takes you to your outcome, right? And
Absolutely.
Even before time, if you just laser focus.
So that was my story, and also sharing some of my favorite tools for assessment. What else we can share with our versus visionaries, Vicky?
Well, on my side, I'm very disciplined and responsible on what I focus on. You know, I always put some goals, but feasible goals, like feasible goals, maybe small goals that you can start like doing right now.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when we put like a long-lasting goal, we get lost and maybe we get frustrated. So what works for me is like to start like with a checklist. Okay, I'm going to do this for next month, in 2 months, in 6 months, I want to achieve this. And I make a checklist with priority items, and then I start like checking everything I do, and setting myself a time for each task. And in general, I do and I accomplish everything I want. That's why some examples came to my mind when you say, you're lucky. No, you're not lucky. You are just putting effort, right? For example, last month I received like a comment saying, how do you do to manifest everything you want? You're lucky. And I was like, no, I just focus on what I want, and I just put my body to work on it. I have to prioritize things. Maybe I don't do other things that I would love to do. Like, for example, now being on the beach, getting suntan and beautiful, but I just focus and do my work. So that's effort that takes us to the outcome.
Yeah.
So I use this checklist and I focus on things that I know that I can accomplish to see myself like evolving and reaching to that. And then of course, but I was not like you. This is our versus difference, that I didn't picture myself from on my 30s to the 55. So that is interesting. I can use it now, you know.
I want to comment on something which you said, and I really like talking about goals. And you know that saying that you eat the elephant one piece at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And indeed, one of the things which I've seen in my professional life is that when you have a big project, something, you know, significant and with a significant complexity, people, they start, you know, doing, you know, everything and, you know, picking up on this kind of like very big 6 weeks, 6 months kind of like activities, right? While what you said, like, break down everything in small pieces. And let's make sure, I think it's important to make sure that you have almost daily, weekly achievements and progress.
Exactly.
It's much more important than sit on a piece of activity or a goal for, like, let's say like 6 months, because that is going to get to give a lot of frustration, because you're gonna see that things are not moving, right? That's going to say, what I'm doing here, nothing is moving. And to keep the motivation up, the method is break down the work in small achievable goals.
Exactly.
Make your goals SMART, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, and put some time, right? And with these two activities, I think everyone will have the opportunity to really embrace the success coming from small, simple goals, and see how the progress is like piling up to their aspirations.
Or even they can have the opportunity to realign if it is not working. Because imagine that you have a goal for 6 months and you wait for 6 months to check on that a goal or that achievement, and you realize that it was not what you expected.
Exactly.
You lost like 6 months, you know.
Yes.
But if you check it every week, and every week you put like an objective and you go and accomplish it, then you have more time to see if it's working, if I need to change everything, I have to make some adjustment.
Course
and
correction.
You can save time at the end.
Yeah, making course correction based on the facts in hand, things which you know, but also understanding if you are going too far from where you want to go. That's again very important, but that comes because of the small, simple steps.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Let's go from to the toolbox from the sky. Yes.
Toolbox. Okay, the toolbox from the sky.
The toolbox from the sky this week says, embrace the journey, not just the destination.
That's important. Okay.
Yes. Because this week we are going to have Mercury that is going to start retrograding. You know, retrograding means that it is like a visual effect. It's like from the Earth, we're going to see that Mercury is going backwards.
Oh, okay.
That's not possible, of course. That's why it's just a visual effect. But what means is that the planet is slowing down. Okay, so in astrology we said that it's going to retrograde, it's going to go backwards and to revise. So this is an opportunity to stop, to go inward and start like analyzing. In fact, we have the 3R: reflect, revise, and reconnect with yourself. This happens every 3-4 months. It's a critical period. Many people don't like Mercury retrograde because during that time we have a lot of problems with connections, with communication. I say something, the other people understand something else. Or my phone goes to the toilet without noticing it. Or the internet is falling all the time. Why is this? Because Mercury invites us to enhance the connection inside of us. This is a period to stop listening so much outside, focusing so much outside, and start analyzing our own path. So this is a perfect time to go and review those efforts, those goals, the objectives I'm going to set to myself, and enjoy this period. Not seeing it like, oh my God, I can communicate with exterior, but take advantage. As we said before, instead of waiting for 6 months to see how the project went, I can do it now. I can make the adjustments now, focus on what I would like to improve, realign, and then when Mercury starts in its direct motion, I can start going outside again. But this is going to be a very useful period if we want to take advantage of it, to focus on that reflection, revising, and reconnecting with ourselves.
Reflection, revising, and reconnecting. So versus visionaries, Mercury is retrograde, so now we know where to pay attention. And I think all this, reflection, revision, reconnecting with others, reconnecting with ourselves, it's also the kind of effort which is going to pay off, and we are going to bring us closer to any outcome we envision, right?
Exactly.
I think it's that kind of very personal effort, on our side, outside of any kind of key milestones, which we should embrace it, because this is something which is going to give us energy and is going to bring the resources which we need around us.
Exactly. Because even the nature has this time, winter is a time to go inward and get the strength, put everything in order, and then be ready for spring and start flourishing again, right?
Yeah.
So Mercury is going to give us this opportunity, and it gives us every 3-4 months.
What are the first steps you will take to align your efforts with your purpose? Comment on YouTube, like us, dislike us, subscribe.
Or even share the video, because maybe there is someone that may need this information.
So until next Saturday,
see you, and keep harmonizing your contrasts.
Keep harmonizing contrast. Ciao, Vicky.
See you next Saturday.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.